Right now, we'll go over back to the NFL. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, covers the NFL as the offseason. Jeff, do you know the training camp date? Isn't there a date that all the teams, except for the teams that are playing in the Hall of Fame game and the first Thursday night, what's that date?
It'd be July 27th, Tuesday, July 27th, Mike.
July 27th. So that is about a month from next week. We will be July 27th is next Sunday. So we were almost 1 month away from the start to training camp here, and a lot of teams getting their stuff done here. And I guess I hate to, because this isn't really a lot of our businesses, but this whole vaccinated versus the unvaccinated players things looks like it's going to be a little bit of a stare down here. And they're saying that if you are one of those unvaccinated players, that you're going to have some problems this year.
Yeah, basically, I'll make a long story short here. Basically, you're going to have to go through everything you went through in 2020 if you're not vaccinated. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. If you're vaccinated, you're going to get all the perks that anybody who's vaccinated around the country has at this point.
So, I mean, do you see some sort of stare down here between the players and the Players Association and the league? I mean, is there going to be something that is going to linger, or are they just going to have to accept that?
I think they're just going to have to accept it, honestly. Like, if it's almost like if you don't, if you want to be with your teammates, if you want the benefits of, pretty much you want this normal lifestyle, get vaccinated or educate yourself and get vaccinated or have someone educate you and, try to help you out. I know some people are still on the fence about it, but I mean, I don't know how much proof I don't know how much more proof you need right now. I mean, it's out of my lane. I'm not going to tell anybody to get vaccinated.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not my business or the league's business. That's the thing. But the league is certainly slanting it towards if you're not. The more I keep reading this, and I'm like, man, this seems like it's going to turn into a situation here because some teams are saying they're having problems, and other teams, I mean, this is going to be. And we just see the Chris Paul thing today, so it seems like this is kind of, in a world that feels like it's almost behind us, it almost kind of crept back in. That's all, I guess, today.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Mike, I honestly. You brought into my next point. I don't think the NFL wants a Chris Paul situation where we're in the heart of December in a playoff race here and say your starting quarterback is gone because he didn't decide not to get vaccinated. And again, that's his right, but that's the risk you are taking. It's just like before when you were on the fence getting a flu shot or not. Yeah, a flu shot makes you sick, but it doesn't prevent you from getting said flu. And COVID-19 is a heck of a lot worse.
Lil Nas X says over.
All right, Jeff, your cohort over at CBS, Cody Benjamin, wrote about landing spots for Stephon Gilmore. We touched a little bit about the possibility of him, but do you anticipate he's not showing up if they are to trade him? And do you anticipate him playing for the Patriots this year?
I expect to stare down, honestly. And, Cody did a great job on that article, by the way. He basically pointed out any cornerback needy team that was pretty much at the salary cap space to take on Stephon Gilmore. My issue is I think the Patriots could try to get something done with him, but I think they want him to play out this year before they do get something done with him. And I think Gilmore wants his money now. I think that's the big issue here. I think he wants that money up front. He wants to make sure he's taken care of. I don't really think he wants to lead the Patriots, but at the same time, the Patriots spent a lot of money this offseason to improve their roster, and I think they need Stephon Gilmore right now more than Stephon Gilmore needs the Patriots.
He puts Cleveland, San Francisco, Indianapolis, Arizona, Seattle, Dallas, L.A., Las Vegas, but Philadelphia needs a corner bad. Would they not make the call?
I think they make the call. I think they're definitely interested in getting a player like Stephon Gilmore. I just think those teams have the salary cap space to take on Gilmore's contract and give him an extension. The Eagles would have to clear a little bit of cap space up there.
They have a way to do it.
They do have a way to do it, and it involves a certain tight end, but it basically comes down to, do you want to keep Stephon Gilmore or do you want to keep Zach Ertz?
Okay, that's a good question. So if I told you can get Gilmore, but you got to give up Ertz, who fits better on this team, Gilmore or Ertz?
Gilmore, because you need that number 2 cornerback.
Right.
It's pretty simple. You have a tight end 1. You have a tight end 2. If you want to be great at tight end and help Jalen Hurts out, that's awesome. If you believe points are the key to winning games, that's awesome. But we got to be honest here, Mike. Do you really want Michael Jacquet back there?
No, but the question would be then, does that deal make sense for both teams? I mean, New England wants the tight end spot. Zach Ertz could be one of the best in the league still. You put him in New England. Could Howie Roseman make the call and convince Bill Belichick, hey, man, I got Ertz. Gilmore doesn't want to be there. Hey, can't we do something here?
But New England already got their tight ends. That's the other issue.
They did sign a couple tight ends in the offseason. Yes, they did. But are they better than Zach Ertz? And aren't they a team that doesn't mind running 2 tight end sets?
I think they overpay Hunter Henry. I'll say that.
Guy who's been hurt a lot.
Jonnu Smith's a nice player, but I think they overpay Hunter Henry. So, again, if they didn't overpay Hunter Henry, I think they should have waited out the market a little bit. I just think they jumped on the gun a little bit there because I still think the Los Angeles Chargers would be an awesome fit for Zach Ertz, but they also signed Jared Cook, so we'll see.
Yeah, obviously, as you said, they've already got the 2 tight ends there, but it's one of those things where you sign them before this opportunity and you feel like, we got these 2, but this guy's better than those 2 guys. Hunter Henry's been hurt so much. I mean, you can't rely on him. Okay, at least it's something that the Eagles could almost make the call without having to break the bank because they're almost planning on playing without Ertz anyway, I guess.
And I'd rather take Stephon Gilmore than a 3rd-round pick because you know what you're getting in the proven commodity.
Do you think you're getting a 3rd-round pick for Zach Ertz still?
No, not at all. But if you're the Eagles, you're a winner if you get Stephon Gilmore for Zach Ertz. You're a clear winner.
If you get Gilmore, you're absolutely right about that. And I think, but it's funny because I was talking about this today. I said if the Patriots end up getting Ertz, isn't he the guy that everybody fantasy football people are, he's going to have a huge season because he's playing for New England? I feel like Ertz in New England is almost a perfect spot. I mean, I'm not saying he's Gronk, but you can put him in almost like the Aaron Hernandez role out there.
I think New England fans would embrace him after what he did to him in the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
So they probably would be like, hey, man, we just got one of the best tight ends in football.
So what would a Gilmore do for the Eagles?
Well, it would solve a quarterback situation that needs a lot of solving. I think you can put Avonte Max back in the slot. I think you can play Zach McPherson that. You could develop him a little more, even if they think Zach McPherson's right. You still have cornerback depth. All of a sudden, you have cornerback depth there. You can even get away with a Michael Jacquet and Craig James on your roster at this point.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Look, your depth would be an issue. There's no question about that. But now all of a sudden, you would have Slay and Gilmore. It would go from a weak spot, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, to being probably the best unit on your football team.
You basically have 2 guys that have made a case to be the NFL Defensive Player of the Year in their career at some point.
Right. You would be going from the weak spot on the team to possibly your 2 starting corners being the strong suit of your defense.
With Anthony Harris and Rodney McLeod behind them. I mean, that's a pretty formidable secondary, I'm not going to lie.
Right, exactly. And that almost takes you from saying it's an older defense, though. There's no question about that. Your defensive line's aging. Your secondary now, all of a sudden, you got Slay over 30. I think Gilmore's right around over 30. Harris is probably I guess Harris would be the young guy of that group, right? Or Wilson.
Yeah, he's 28, 29?
Yeah, I don't think he's not quite at 30 yet, but you got McLeod who's coming off injury. You would have an aging defense, and you would have that whole thought of, okay, when are we going to break down? It would be a defense that probably needs depth, and they don't have it.
It gives you time to develop, though, cornerbacks. Not this year, but next year. Say you can draft those cornerbacks and those safeties with your first couple picks next year. It's almost like when you had Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor. You knew they were in their early 30s, but they were still producing. And, yeah, they eventually broke down and got hurt, but then you get a year or two where, okay, we can develop Leo Shepard, we can develop Sheldon Brown. You can basically have that situation with Darius Slay and Stephon Gilmore. You basically sign Gilmore to an extension. You got 2 good years of Darius Slay and Stephon Gilmore before you decide to cut bait.
Got some texts coming in on our conversation here, so we'll read them off because Eagles and Gilmore, not a good fit. Gilmore is in a win-now type situation. The Eagles are looking more at long-term success.
Are they, though?
You took the words out of my mouth because all of their actions this offseason would say otherwise. I'm not saying, and nor do I believe that this is a Super Bowl team by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they think this team is a NFC East winning team.
I think they feel this team can go to the playoffs. I agree, Mike. I believe that their thought process is if Jalen Hurts is what we think he is, we have a chance to go back to the playoffs and we have a chance to win a bad NFC East, and then we'll build our team with our future first-round draft capital. That's how I think that they're planning on this. Yeah, do they want to get younger? Absolutely, but you also signed Ryan Kerrigan. You've signed Eric Wilson. That's not getting younger.
You signed Richard Rodgers. You brought in Nick Mullins. I mean, you could develop a younger quarterback. They decided not to go that route. They went out and got, as you mentioned, Kerrigan. They said, look, instead of developing some of our younger guys, their offseason, Jeff, has, I don't want to say mirrored their 2017 offseason, but they took a swing on a lot of guys late in free agency who were quote-unquote role-type players, and I'm feeling like they are almost trying to follow that same blueprint. We were 7-9. Not a lot of people believed in us. We made a couple of these veteran moves, and voila, they went from 7-9 to 13-3. That's not happening, in my opinion, this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if they went from a 4-win team to, say, a 9-win team in this division.
Yeah. See, this is what I feel with them. They are looking at it as we have a chance to compete, we have a chance to go to the playoffs, but also they have an opportunity here, like you said, Mike, not to go 13-3, obviously, but I think to speed up this retooling process, if you will. And we have to look back at this draft class. After the 4th round, a lot of these guys were undrafted free agents. That's why Jamie Newman ain't here. I don't think Jamie Newman would have been on this roster in minicamp if it was a normal year. Let's just be honest. They probably would have drafted the quarterback, but they probably felt there is no reason to draft these players. That's why you saw them draft defensive tackles and defensive ends like Patrick Johnson and the kid from USC, because those players you can get in undrafted free agency or late in the draft, and they can be solid contributors for this team. Yeah, for every Elijah Qualls, there's also a Sam Rayburn, for example. So that's why I think they did what they did.
It'll be interesting because, as that text message says about Gilmore is in a win-now type situation, I don't know that he would get to pick where he wants to play. If he doesn't
trade, you don't get to pick where you want. This isn't the NBA.
Right. It's not like if he doesn't show up there and they want to trade him, he doesn't get to say, you know what, I'm going to show up. Don't trade me there.
There's only one player I think that in the last 3 years that got traded to actually where he wanted to go, and that was Jalen Ramsey and the Los Angeles Rams.
Well, yes, and that was like a weird in-season situation, where he was playing. Right? He was playing, though.
Yeah, he played the first week, and then he basically said, I'm done. I had enough of this. It was after week 1, and then he just never showed up, and Jacksonville just said, okay, we're going to get what we can for you.
Yeah, that Gilmore thing's something to keep an eye on, though, because the more and more I keep reading stuff up there, he's not showing up. New England, if they're like, you don't show up, all right, fine, you're out of here. I wouldn't be shocked if, put it this way, I would feel, if you ask me right now, Jeff, I'd say Gilmore's on a different team to start the season.
This isn't Jamal Adams where Seattle basically excused him.
Right.
I think Seattle wants to get a contract done with him.
Boom. Seattle came out and said we're okay with him not being here.
Yeah, they're completely fine. He didn't get fined. He's happy. They're happy. I mean, I'm sure they're working out a long-term contract with him now. Everybody's getting on them about, but look, I'll give the Seattle Seahawks a lot of credit. Their two biggest stories this offseason were Russell Wilson and Jamal Adams, and they nipped that in the bud.
How did they fix that? And could Green Bay follow anything they did?
Well, here's a simple thing. Pete Carroll and John Snyder didn't call out Russell Wilson. They just said, hey, talk to Russell, we want him here. We want him in Seattle. Wow. They did more by not saying anything. The Packers just keep talking, and they probably shouldn't do that. They should have took the code of silence this entire time.
I'm definitely the Rodgers stuff we spoke about earlier this week. I'm definitely keeping my eye on this Gilmore stuff, though, because if you ask me, will Gilmore be in New England, I would say no. He will not play. They will trade him, I think.
Yeah. By the way,
I feel more that they would trade him than Green Bay will trade Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly. Another point I wanted to make Russell Wilson, too. I love when Russell Wilson basically came out and said, I did not want to go anywhere, so let's get that clear. But if they were to trade me, those were the teams I wanted to go to. That's what he said. I think that's where the story got a little misconstrued. They almost made it sound like Russell Wilson wanted to go to a team. No, he really didn't want to leave Seattle at all. Yeah.
All right.
Unless they wanted to move on from him.
Yeah, I do believe that. I think he is a Seahawk. He embodies that. Go Hawks every time. He likes being a Seahawk. I do kind of agree with that. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. As we said, we're about 6 weeks away from training camp. I feel like every day something kind of happens. Baker Mayfield, he's going to be an interesting guy to keep an eye on.
He's the MVP, didn't you hear?
Well, I was just going to say, a lot of expectations for that team. I'm interested to see. This is his last year on the rookie deal, I think, before they got to start talking extension. He says he's in no rush here, but I always keep thinking, like, is Baker – because remember, when he got drafted number 1 that year, people were surprised. There was a lot of quarterbacks. They're like, really? They got the number 1 pick?
I thought Lamar should have been number 1.
Lamar Jackson in Cleveland, number 1. Wow, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, I thought he was the best quarterback in the draft. And, obviously this quarterback class is turning out to be great. I mean, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. There's a lot of stiffs in there, too, like Josh Rosen. But I'll tell you what, I think it's a race of who gets signed first.
Yeah, I was going to say, does Baker Mayfield fit? Does he stay in Cleveland, or do they say it's almost like, is this the evaluation of, is he the guy that can get us that Super Bowl?
Here's a bold prediction. I think Baker Mayfield takes less money to stay in Cleveland.
So you think he wants to be there?
I think he wants to be there, and I think he wants to win. That's what I think is going to happen.
All right. There you go. Jeff Kerr, we got plenty of all-season stories we will continue to throw around throughout the summer here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. Will you be at Game 5 tonight?
I will not be at Game 5 tonight. I sold the tickets. But if there's a Game 7, I will be there. I will say that.
Sold the
tickets. You know what? My buddy decided to go. My buddy wanted to buy the tickets from me. I said, have at it. Go have a blast.
All right. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, covers the NFL, and he, like all guests, appear via the Boardwalk on the hotline. All right, Jeff, have a good one, man.
Yeah, sounds great. Go Sixers.